Hello, my name is Audrey Wolfgang, and I just went on my 6th work tour. A common aspect of Christianity that is often hidden is fellowship. On this year's work tour, however, that really stood out. Whether it was whitewater rafting or working together on the work sites, we were able to strengthen our connection to the church, but also with the communities of Tennessee. One moment in particular that I remember took place when our group traveled to what the locals call Midnight Hole. It consisted of these huge boulders wedged together to form a waterfall, but the cool thing about it was that you could climb up these large rocks and jump off them into the river. Since the water flow was pushing you away from the waterfall, it was a little tricky to make it back to where you could climb up, but countless times our group was helping little kids we never met get to the platform. I also admittedly needed help getting to this platform because I'm a runner, not a swimmer. But it was awesome to see everyone helping each other. I wanted to share this story because it shows that fellowship is not just within our church or religion. What I love about Work Tour is that you create bonds with the people you are surrounded by, no matter what their background, and it creates an amazing trip. It doesn't matter if you're on the work site, but there are countless opportunities to get to know people you would never thought to have met. A girl from Texas who went to Tennessee for an internship for whitewater rafting, a man who has pigs, goats, and cows but is too kind to kill them, and a man from Czechoslovakia who has lived all over the world but settled in Sunset Gap to be with a woman that he met in Walmart. These are just a few examples of the people we got to meet while on Work Tour, but every single one of them helped us strengthen our fellowship with communities outside of our own. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emmett, and I went on the much less impressive number of 3 work tours. Going on this work tour, I had 4 close friends also going with me, so I was very excited because it was essentially like a week-long sleepover with Southern food. However, when we got there, we actually had assigned work sites this year and assigned seats in the bus, so I was forced out of my comfort zone to talk to people that I may have not talked to as much before. I had to branch out and make new friends, but I learned a lot about different people. I learned that Emma, for some reason, all dogs love her more than anything in the world. I learned that Elaine has a very similar taste in music to me, so like a great taste in music. And while we were there, we didn't have too much work to do because they're on something called Appalachian time, which means really slow. And so I actually got to talk to the people we were helping and the contractors we were with. I got to learn about Herman, the guy who had a sign outside of his house saying, "I'm a bitter gun owner clinging to my religion, is too kind to kill cows." I learned the ins and outs of selling goats with him. I learned about Beretta, a dog that would play fetch with rocks. I learned about Martin, who is a Czechoslovakian tank driver. I wasn't brave enough to ask for which military. He would work on cargo ships all over Scandinavia. He built fitness centers in Canada, and that he can dance beautifully to ABBA. And by the end of the trip, I was thinking, what do I have in common with all these people? And I don't know. But by the end of the trip, I was telling riddles with Herman. I was dancing along, not as well, but still with Martin. And I made new friends both here and some in Sunset Gap. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Grace Cook. This was my first work tour and I was really excited. I take joy in animals and helping others, so being away from my work and my dog at home wasn't easy until we drove up this huge bumpy hill in a big 15-passenger van and saw dogs racing out to greet us. Dogs are really sweet. The 3 that were outside were Beretta, Kai, who everyone calls Poncho for some reason, and Zuki. We later found out that Irene, the house owner, had 3 more Chihuahuas inside. Beretta was my favorite because she was the most social and she always wanted your attention and she always wanted you to throw rocks for her to fetch. Not sticks or tennis balls, but rocks. As a person who works in a veterinary office, it was really nice to see a bunch of dogs, but it got me thinking, how can this family afford to feed and take care of their 6 dogs? How can they afford to take their dogs to get neutered or get vaccines or be hospitalized in an emergency? Irene told us about that Beretta had a stroke and it was why one of her ears doesn't articulate like the other. She also mentioned that Kai has seizures, but they just kind of pet him and let him ride it out. This is all very sad for me. The dogs looked very happy and they seemed like they really enjoyed life there. God challenged my perception of people on the trip. We perceive these people differently than who they are. You may look at someone and say, oh, they don't look like a very nice person, but they actually are a wonderful person. Or like me, you might drive up to a work site and see a bunch of dogs and think how happy can they be there. They don't seem to have the best access to health care or a very big home for 6 dogs. Or if you're like Kai and the other Chihuahuas, there are big hawks flying around ready to snatch them up at any minute. There are even snakes in that area. God challenged what I perceived as happiness. I think of happiness as getting all that you deserve in life. These dogs in this family deserve more than what they have. They deserve more than just they deserve more based on just the fact that they are very nice people. They deserve more, the dogs deserve more than just Irene pulling off their ticks. And yet they seem very happy. Whether it's Beretta hiding under the trailer, guarding her rock pile, or Kai going around under cars and peeing on car tires, or Zuki barking at you when you get too close. His family is happy just because they have each other. The dogs are happy because they are well loved. Those dogs were always happy to see us and would come over and try to get your attention during lunch, and they always did it looking happy. I'm very happy that this trip and God have changed my perception of happiness and brought me joy in doing so.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Cumberland, and this past work tour was my 4th. I've gone on one a year since my freshman year, and this was my 3rd going to the Sunset Gap. And overall, I think we had a very successful work tour, but I will say that it seemed that this past year we faced more adversity than we had in some of the years prior. And most of our issues actually stemmed from the heat and humidity. We were expecting rain showers to come help us out, but they didn't. And to kick off the work week, I think every single person sweat through their jeans all the way through. It was awful. And so every day, starting at 9 and then ending around 4, it was muggy, it was humid, and just overall hot. I think a person there told us that it was 105 degrees with the heat index on Wednesday, which was their hottest day of the year so far. And so because of the high temperatures, and because there was also another larger group also at the Gap while we were there, we only got assigned to 2 sites off the Gap during the entire week, a deck site and a painting site. And perhaps even more frustrating was that we weren't able to work as long or as hard as some of us were accustomed to. Some of the seniors and I got especially frustrated when one day we had to end at 2:30 because of the heat and how it was affecting us, how we were slowed down. It was dangerous, quite frankly. And I was frustrated because I wanted to sweat, maybe not like through my jeans, because that's disgusting, but I wanted to push myself to see all the work that we could do. And Grant, to his credit, was aware of all this, and on Tuesday night we all met and talked about like what was bothering us. And the talking helped, but what changed my perspective the most was what Grant alluded to when his turn came to talk that night. And sort of what I came to realize is that just because we weren't building or painting or constructing as much as we usually did on past work tours, that did not mean the things that we did accomplish didn't matter. We finished the deck, and we painted an entire house and did several small jobs around the Gap that in the end all needed to be done. And we still had fun. We went water rafting, as we alluded to. We played scattergories. We played and threw rocks for Beretta, which is unusual, but whatever. And we went to Midnight Hole, and it was still the highlight of my summer. Ultimately though, for me it was just a small perspective change to understand that the people we helped are just as thankful for our service than if we finished the work a few hours earlier. Moreover, there is far more that we can do through social justice and activism than we accomplish by building decks. Nonetheless, Union Church had another very successful work tour, so thank you to everyone involved.